So today we'll be talking about lung abscesses. Now lung abscesses are basically localized area of necrosis along with a little bit of suppuration. Suppuration is pus formation. Alright, I'll show you one image for lung abscess. One second. So that is how a lung abscess will look. If you see a normal lung versus a lung which has lung abscess, you will see a small localized area where there has necrosis has occurred, and in that necrotic spot you'll be able to see suppuration, that is pus will be formed and it will be accumulated in that area. Obviously this area can and will get infected. Excuse me. There's a high chance that this area can get infected, and depending on how it is, what you call, being caused, your lung abscesses will be of two types: primary and secondary type. Right. So one second. Yeah, coming back to lung abscesses, you have basically two types of lung abscesses. This is a localized area of necrosis with pus formation. So the primary lung abscess, this develops in a normal lung, and it is mainly due to aspiration of infected material, in the sense that someone is inhaling infected material. It can be, see, aspiration is a process in which contents of your GIT, or contents that were supposed to go into your esophagus, are going into your trachea. That is aspiration basically. All right. Here in this context, aspiration will mean that any infected material that the person is ingesting is going into their trachea and into their lungs. So that is how you are getting primary lung abscess. So aspiration of infected material or of infected material. That is one way. That is the main way you get primary lung abscess. Secondary lung abscess will be a condition which develops as a complication due to some other disease. So it can be an infection or some other condition that is occurring in a different spot, and it that primary conditions complication is causing secondary lung abscess. So let's suppose someone has a heart disorder, or someone has an infection in their what you call thymus, or somewhere around the area, or they might even have sepsis, bacteremia, any of such sort. Main disease is that, as a complication of that main disease or disorder, a secondary lung abscess is occurring, wherein that bacteria or that causative agent is basically coming to your lung and causing a lung abscess. That is some secondary way of getting lung abscesses. Okay. Now, based on the causes, causative organisms will basically be of three or more types, not more than that. Okay. So if I talk about etiology or causative agents, so you have aerobic and anaerobic. किधर है? हाँ, aerobic and anaerobic staphylococci and staphylococci, streptococci, and a few gram-negative bacteria will cause this as well. Gram-negative bacilli basically, not bacteria. Now, these are the main causative agents for this. They can be introduced into your lungs. So basically, it's a bacterial infection. How it is coming will be of different routes. So basically, if I put it this way, it is being caused by a bacteria, but let's suppose it is being aspirated. Okay. So aspiration of foreign infected foreign material, in the sense that someone is ingesting some foreign material which is having this kind of bacteria in it. That is one way. Okay. Another way is from direct bacterial infection, so like pneumonia, or because of tuberculosis or any other infection. Let's suppose if you, even if it is tuberculosis, it is basically making the person more susceptible to other infections during that period of time. Let's suppose this infection also occurs, that can lead to a lung abscess or bronchial obstruction. So if you remember, in bronchiectasis we studied that obstruction can lead to infection, because it will cause your bronchi to be a nice what you call warm and wet place where bacteria can grow. So bronchial obstruction can cause what do you call, lung abscesses or septic embolism. So emboli are basically small particles that will be present inside your blood. They will detach, and let's suppose the embolus, it is basically a form of blockage. Okay, what is happening is this embolus, it is originating from some spot, and let's suppose that spot, maybe it is a liver or it is a kidney, that spot is having some kind of infection. Now this embolus, which was blocking a particular artery or any blood vessel, it is detaching from that place because of the pressure of the blood. It is basically breaking off, and it is flowing all around in your body, and it comes to your lungs and gets stuck in your lung. Now if this embolus is infected, in the sense that if this embolus, okay, this embolus has any bacteria, specifically these type of bacteria, it can cause a lung abscess. These are all secondary ways. Okay, aspiration will be the only primary way. The others that we are discussing are secondary way, because there is already a primary problem that the patient has, because of which lung abscess is occurring. All right, even if we talk about bacterial infection, if a bacterial infection starts, it will first cause pneumonia. Okay, it is highly likely that it will cause pneumonia. That will be the primary condition. A secondary condition will be because of a complication of that, it is leading to lung abscess, or the complication will present itself as lung abscess. So septic embolism is one, and lastly, trauma of the lungs. So it can be, basically it refers to physical trauma because of, let's suppose, being stabbed, or because of any particular type of injury where what you call, lungs are being punctured or lungs are being exposed to bacteria. In those conditions, bacteria can go and cause lung abscesses. Now these abscesses, they will look like small areas of, so they will basically, in your lung, you saw the image, but basically it is a small area like this that is getting, okay, that is a very large area. It is basically a smaller area like this, in which initially there is a necrosis. All right, and ultimately what happens is those necrose cells, uh, they will basically start releasing some exudative material as well. There will obviously be, in that cavity which is being formed, there will be acute inflammation. This, the size of this abscess will be around 5 to 6 centimeters in diameter. Okay, that is how big that abscess will be, and it can be from a few millimeters to 5 to 6 centimeters. It can be very small, it can be a bit larger as well. And obviously there will be pus formation in that, because the surrounding cells are being damaged, there will be inflammation there. And whenever there is inflammation, you know, exudative material from your lymphocytes, from plasma cells, from macrophages, from surrounding cells, all of them can come, and pus will start accumulating in this area. So you not just have necrosis in this area, but you also have pus in this area. Whenever there is pus, more amount of bacteria can grow. Sometimes what happens is, these abscesses, they will undergo, especially in case of chronic cases. Okay, if the lung abscess has been there for a very long period of time, so you have acute and chronic cases. Acute is a very short, fast progressing condition. Chronic is a slower progressing, long term condition. So if someone has a chronic case of lung abscess, so someone is suffering from lung abscess for a very long period of time, in them, at one point obviously your body will try to heal this. So what will happen is, fibrin and elastin, they will start coming into picture. So in this exudative material, you will start seeing fibrin stands, and so I'll draw it in green like this, and a few pink strands as well. You will see fibrin, you will see elastin. So basically repair and healing will try to occur there. What will happen is, a small, what do you call, fibrocollagenic wall will become here. So a small wall of fibrous fibrin and collagen, so basically the materials of healing, extracellular matrix material, they will come into picture, and they will get combined in that area. Kind of looks like a scar. All right, and if you're able to heal this using antibiotics, it is well and good, no problem. But if you're not able to heal this, what happens is, it can lead to empyema. Empyema is a condition in which this abscess is leaking out into your pleural cavity, and basically your visceral pleura will have small what do you call, cavities like this. All right, small cyst like structures that will be formed on your visceral pleura. So your pleura has both visceral and parietal pleura, all right? So I'm drawing the parietal pleura like this. So you will have small cyst-like structures which will themselves have pus inside them. Cyst-like structures will be formed. That is empyema. Or the patient can develop an abscess that will reach all the way up to brain. Or from here, septic emboli can travel through the blood vessels. Now there will be blood vessels around here as well. All right, obviously because lung is a perfused organ, highly perfused organ, you will have blood vessels here as well. Now, if there is infection and lung abscess here, obviously at one point of time, it is possible that that abscess may form emboli, and that emboli will enter blood and reach other places. One big complication is if that infection reaches brain, right? That will lead to meningitis, or it will lead to other complications as well. So this is about lung abscess. Not a lot of detail in your syllabus, but at least basic brief information. I hope you understood what is lung abscess. If you have any doubts, please let me know. No doubts?
Sir, after the
Hmm.
thing of this collagen fibers and other things, what will happen, sir? Can you please repeat?
So basically, if someone has chronic type of what do you call lung abscess, obviously at one point of time their body will, whenever there is damage, you know, your body will try to heal it, right? And if the damage is extensive enough, now if a abscess is big enough, like I'm telling 5 centimeters in diameter, is a big injury, right? So there's basically a 5 centimeter big hole in your lung. So your body is trying to heal that. During that period of time, if you remember wound healing, we discussed that sometimes if the wound is very big, regeneration will not occur, but repair will occur, wherein scarring will occur, right? Granulomatous tissue will come into place and scars will be formed, right? So
Yes, sir.
that is what is happening here. Fibrin comes in, collagen comes in, extracellular matrix material will come in. uh, what will happen is you will have a fibrocollagenic wall. Fibrin and collagen, they will mesh together and they will form a small wall like structure near that abscess. Now during this period of time, if you are able to heal, in the sense if someone is going to the hospital taking medication, trying to heal it basically externally as well, well and good, it will get healed, that is fine. Sometimes surgical intervention might be warranted, where you have to perform a surgery and actually clean out the wound, because you cannot let it heal as such. It will take a very long time, and by the time it heals, it will maybe spread to all over the lung and maybe to other organs as well. In case the patient is not able to heal, or in case the patient is not able to take treatment, or basically where the disease is not stopping its progression, what will happen is the pus like material or the necrosed material, now you know necrosis spreads, right? So it will start spreading around the lung to the point that it will involve the pleural cavity as well, right? This is the pleural cavity, so this will be your pleural cavity, especially your visceral pleura, the inner part of the pleura. It will have small cyst like structures which will contain pus themselves. Those cyst like structures that will be present in your pleural cavity, that condition is called empyema. Okay, so empyema is a complication that can occur from lung abscess. One second, people are trying to come in, right? Sorry. So empyema can occur, cavity like structures, fluid filled cavities being cyst basically being formed around your pleural cavity, visceral cavity, sorry, that can occur. Or if it is able to enter blood, especially septic emboli, that brain abscess can occur from here. If the infection goes all the way up to your brain, it can lead to meningitis, it can lead to neurological problems. If it is spreading to other areas, it might lead to what do you call systemic infection. So that is how lung abscesses can progress if not controlled. All right. I hope that explains your doubt.
Yes, sir.
Chalo. Anyone else? Any doubts? Okay. Chalo. Uh, we'll do this thing then. So this completes your lung abscesses. Next topic will be tumors. Tumors of the lung. Now, lung tumors basically, they can be benign and malignant, but they are of several kinds. Okay, you can have primary lung cancer, secondary lung cancer, several types. One of the most common tumors or common types of cancer will be bronchogenic cancer. All right, the one that is arising from your bronchi and bronchioles. Bronchogenic cancer. You can also term it bronchogenic carcinoma actually, because it is coming from epithelium. Now, bronchogenic carcinoma will comprise of almost 90 to 95% of all lung cancer. So, 90 to 95% of all lung cancers are bronchogenic carcinomas. All right. So, bronchogenic carcinomas are those cancers that will basically occur either from your squamous cell that is present in your lung, or it is occurring as an adenocarcinoma. Adenocarcinoma is basically a carcinoma that is arising from your mucus producing cell. Okay. It can be adenocarcinoma, excuse me, or it can be a large cell or a small cell carcinoma. Okay, we'll discuss what is large cell and small cell carcinoma. You don't have it in detail, but at least some details you should know. Now, these are the four ways through which you can get bronchogenic carcinoma. Let me put it this way. So, bronchogenic carcinoma is of a few types in turn, or a few ways it can originate. One is, should I, yeah, squamous cell carcinoma, or it can be a large cell carcinoma. It can be a small cell carcinoma, or it can be an adenocarcinoma. Right, these are the four main ways or main types of bronchogenic types of carcinoma. All right, these will originate in and around your bronchi. So it can be around your in the squamous cell, or it can be from a mucus producing cell, or it can be a large cell or a small cell carcinoma. Now, if we talk about squamous cell carcinoma, these are basically, now, squamous cell and small cell carcinomas, both of them occur in smokers. Okay, 80% of all lung cancers will occur in smokers. So smoking is strongly associated with uh, bronchogenic carcinoma. Your risk of getting cancer will increase a little more if the patient is undergoing some sort of radiation, or if they work in a factory of asbestos. Basically, they are in contact with asbestos fibers, so you will have a very particular type of tumor called mesothelioma as well, that comes from asbestos fibers. So just remember, asbestos exposure, nickel, gold. So I'll write them down. One second. Um, Risk on exposure to, so increased risk for cancer with risk exposure to radiations. Obviously, you have asbestos. So people who work in asbestos factories are very susceptible to get lung cancers. People who are coming in contact with nickel or gold or arsenic, iron, atmospheric pollution, and sometimes dietary factors as well. Though strong correlation has not been made, dietary factors do play a role sometimes. All right. So these are some increased some risk factors that can increase the exposure to, sorry, increased risk on exposure to these factors can cause cancers, specifically bronchogenic type of carcinoma. Now, carcinoma and small cell carcinoma, both of them are very common in smokers, especially small cell carcinoma. Small cell carcinoma is a type of carcinoma that will spread very, very quickly. It is very metastatic and very aggressive kind of carcinoma. Right. Though it responds well to chemotherapy, the rest do not. Small cell carcinoma will respond very well to chemotherapy. Squamous, large cell, and adenocarcinoma will not respond to chemotherapy that well. Right. You might have patients who respond, but generally not much. And in general, bronchogenic carcinomas will be restricted to your hilar region. So if you take your lung like this, let's suppose I take a cross section of my lung like this. Now you will be able to see a small area where your pulmonary veins, pulmonary arteries, your bronchus is entering. Okay, so if you see a cross section, you will be able to see something like this. So you have your bronchus entering like this. Okay, and you have your pulmonary, let's suppose pulmonary vein entering like this, and pulmonary artery entering like this, so on and so forth. So basically, that is the hilum. Bronchogenic carcinoma will be concentrated in and around your hilum. So the hilus of your lungs, especially the bronchi present around the hilus, that is where they will be affected. Adenocarcinomas, these are peripheral in location. They are smaller in size as well, and they will be in present in the periphery of your this thing, especially in the mucin producing glands. That is where adenocarcinoma occurs. Small cell carcinomas are generally present centrally. So in the central part of your lung, they will produce ectopic hormones. So they themselves, the tumor that is formed from your small cell carcinoma, they will start producing hormones of their own. Okay, these cells are very small and round and oval in shape with very little amount of cytoplasm. If you remember in cancer that we studied once, cytoplasm will be very little and nucleus will be very prominent in size. So here is a common, very good example. Small cell carcinomas will have very little amount of cytoplasm. They'll be small and round in shape, and they generally grow in clusters. Okay, so you'll be able to find small clusters in the present in the central part of your lung. They will generally have some kind of neurosecretory granules that can be seen through a microscope. Your large cell carcinomas are mostly undifferentiated squamous cell carcinomas. Okay, they are basically कैसा है वो तो squamous cell carcinoma which is undifferentiated. They will develop into large cell carcinoma. So your giant cells, large cell carcinomas themselves have a little classification, 6 7 types of cancers that come under large cell carcinomas. You don't have a lot of detail anyway. I'm just telling you so that you know. They will have polygonal type of cells, large cells with vesicular nucleus, right? So this is a little bit about bronchogenic carcinoma. Now coming to the other types of tumors that you will find in your lung, one is bronchial carcinoids or bronchial carcinoid, either way. Now these will not occur in smokers, these will occur in a younger age group. Okay, they do not have any association with cigarette smoking or other environmental factors. These will be generally associated sometimes with carcinoid syndrome. Carcinoid syndrome is, okay, let me write it this way, not associated with smoking or environmental factors affects younger individuals or younger age group people. Uh, and they are associated with carcinoid syndromes. So carcinoid syndrome is a condition in which a tumor will be producing a very specific type of, it can produce a neurotransmitter. For example, there is one type of carcinoid syndrome which will secrete serotonin. All right, serotonin is a neurotransmitter, as you know. Some carcinoid tumors, they will produce serotonin, which can have a direct effect on your heart. So it can cause endocarditis and all of that. Other complications can develop. Normally, in this condition, people who have carcinoid syndrome, they will show diarrhea, or they will have flushing, or they will have cyanosis. So flushing is a condition in which there will be redness in their cheek, kind of thing, all over in their face and their cheeks. And cyanosis is a condition in which basically oxygen is not reaching a particular area, because of which the area is being discolored to blue. Will start looking bluish in color. So if I have cyanosis in my lips will start looking bluish in color. All right. So cyanosis is commonly seen in this, and these carcinoids are relatively smaller in size. Maximum size that you'll be able to see is around 4 centimeters, not more than that. The vertical cancers as well, how it will look is it will be like a net. Okay, they'll look like small nests on cords and masses of cell. Okay, you don't need a lot of detail, but that is bronchial carcinoids, the small tumors less than 4 centimeters in size, present in young adults, generally associated with carcinoid syndrome. So I'll write it here, sometimes associated with carcinoid syndrome, wherein your tumor is producing any particular type of hormone in excess. One example I told you is a neurotransmitter that is being secreted in excess, like serotonin, which can ultimately lead to attacks of diarrhea, flushing, and cyanosis. Right. So that is about bronchial carcinoids. Then you have metastatic tumors, basic metastatic tumors that will, they'll basically be multiple nodular type. So they will go to your periphery. They will generally be in your peribronchial and perivascular tissue. So around your bronchi and around your blood vessels, they'll be present metastatic tumors, and they will spread a lot, obviously, because they are metastatic tumors. So that is the other kind, metastatic tumors. This is a very small topic. You don't have to go into a lot of detail about it. Just the basics that you need to know. Uh, the last type will be pleural tumors. So pleural tumors are basically those that are occurring in your pleura, obviously. Right. These will be secondary from these will be secondary. So basically, it is uh, these type of tumors are occurring because of a primary condition. So there is already a neoplasm in the lung or breast. So there is some type of cancer that is occurring either in the lung. So someone has some type of lung cancer, or someone has some type of breast cancer, because of which it is going all the way up to your pleura, and tumors are being formed in your pleura. So this is generally a secondary condition. Mostly it will also occur in the form of sorry, the only important primary tumor. So in the sense that the primary way, or the only way through which you can get direct pleural tumors, is mesothelioma, where you have asbestos fibers going into your lungs and damaging your pleura, not just your lung and your pleura as well. You will have a thick soft gelatinous layer present around your what you call lung. So basically it will give a grayish pink coloration to the neoplasm, and your lung will start looking a different color. Right, most pleural carcinomas. Okay, let me write it down so that you don't have confusion. Most pleural tumors are secondary, so they are because of um so i.e. Because of primary lung or breast cancer. So someone already has a breast cancer, or someone has lung cancer. From there, these tumors are metastasizing to your pleura and causing pleural tumors. That is the main way, mostly. All right. Sometimes what happens is when there is mesothelioma. So this will be primary in mesothelioma. So you have inhaled asbestos fibers. One second. Right. Inhaled asbestos fibers causing uh, cancer. So that is the only way through which you can get primary type of pleural tumors, wherein someone is having what you call mesothelioma, basically exposure to your asbestos. So these are the four main types of tumors of your lungs. So you will have other tumors as well, but these are the four main types. But metastatic tumors, pleural tumors, bronchial carcinoids, and bronchogenic carcinoma. Bronchogenic carcinoma will form the bulk of your tumors. The rest 5%, 5 to 10%. This was supposed to be 90 to 95%. One second. 90 to 95%. Okay, most of the cancers of your lung, tumors of your lung will be bronchogenic kind. Some will be bronchial carcinoids or metastatic tumors or pleural tumors. So this is about the tumors of your lung. All right. So I hope you understood this. If you did not, or if you have any particular doubts, please let me know. In your textbook also, this is a very small. I hope you guys took your textbooks to home, or even if you did not, I hope you have the textbook that I sent you. ग्रुप में डाला था शायद ना आप लोगों को पैथो की एक टेक्स्ट बुक
Yes, sir.
है ना सी आप लोगों को एग्जाम है नहीं है एट वन पॉइंट दे माइट पुट एग्जाम for now they might some governments might be postponing exams or removing exams also as such, but at one point suddenly they'll be like, okay, you have an exam in 2 weeks or 1 month. So it is better that you study, at least have some general working knowledge, and it is important if you are going for hospital rounds as well. It is good that you know instead of being completely blank whenever is someone is talking, because obviously there will be occasions where some senior or someone or the other, even if it is just a patient, they will ask you what is this. You should be able to tell at least the basics of it. Here what we are covering is only the basics, not we are not going in a lot of detail, especially for the topics that we discussed today, lung abscess and these, very superficially we covered. You do not have a lot of detail in them, so please make sure that you read from time to time. All right, chalo. Tomorrow we'll start what you call antitussive drugs given for coughing, and that will complete your respiratory system both in pharmacology and pathology. I'll go into pain I'll continue as what you call pain drugs for pain in pharmacology. After that we'll go to cardiology in your path. Okay, chalo. See you
Thank
tomorrow
you, sir.
guys. No problem.